In case you didn't know, and I know you do, but this Thursday's Thanksgiving. And when I was praying, it was funny, I'm praying all week about, Lord, what do you want me to preach on this week? And it wasn't until Thursday night that I just felt like the Lord said, how about Thanksgiving next Thursday? And I said, oh yeah. So, I totally forgot. So my message today is entitled, Be Ye Thankful. And I want to talk about thankfulness. I think our nation is the only nation that I know of that has a holiday that they celebrate being thankful to God for meeting their needs. And there's a lot of different theories and speculations about the Thanksgiving story, but basically when the pilgrims came from the old world to the new world to escape religious persecution, they were struggling. It was hard. They're in a new land. They don't know anything about it. And the Native American Indians came and they said, we want to help you. And they blessed them. And they ate. And they made it through the winter. And they were grateful. They were grateful to the Native American Indians that didn't fight them, but instead helped them with food. And they were also very thankful to God. I always remember a story. Bobette and I know some people from Parry Sound, Ontario, Canada, and that is they're so far north. They're just like miles away from what they call the timberline, where Canada turns into the North Pole. I mean, they're way up there. And he built this cabin, but it wasn't finished. They just had plastic on the windows for the wintertime. He said he'd wake up in the morning and there'd be snow laying on their bed. I said, well, Jim, you're a better man than I am. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you're happy. But he now has a business where people come in there and he takes them on tours to go moose hunting. But anyhow, he said their first winter, him and his wife Liz, they were starving. They just didn't know how they were going to make it. And they're like in this deep of snow. And all of a sudden there's a pounding on the door of their cabin. And they're like, it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and they don't know anybody. They're in the middle of nowhere, and like, what's this all about? And they open the door, and there was an Eskimo, a full-blooded Eskimo, all covered in his walrus skin or whatever Eskimos wear, I don't know. And he didn't say a word. He just came in, and he had an entire bear leg, the back hind leg of a bear, on his shoulders, and he came walking in, and he just slammed it down on the kitchen table and walked out. Jim said, I never saw him before, and I never saw him again. So maybe he was an angel unawares, I don't know. But this bear leg and the meat that they made from that got him through the winter. So Thanksgiving time is a holiday that is a good thing. And like I said, I don't know of any other nations that do this, but next Thursday, we as a nation, we're going to thank God for His blessings. So what I wanted to talk today about was being thankful. And, some people say, well, what do I got to be thankful about? You don't know the problems I got in my life. Well, when people say, well, why should I be thankful? It's beneficial to us to be thankful. Because in Romans chapter 1 and verse 21 it says this, because that when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Now Solomon said, the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. But Paul is telling the Romans that if you're not thankful, that's foolish. And your heart will get darkened. In 2 Timothy, Paul says this, 2 Timothy 3:2, giving a description of what people are going to be like in the last days. He says, for men should be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, and unholy. And that's kind of like, we live in a gimme society. And it's like, well, what do I got to be thankful for about? My neighbor's got a nicer car than I do. My neighbor over on this side's got a bigger screen TV than I do. And it's like, I'm not happy unless I have everything I want. And this attitude of gratitude is something that's hard to find. But when you think about it, remember what Solomon said, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine? If you're grateful, if you're thankful, you know what that does? It makes your heart lighter. It makes your heart merry. It does even your physical body. It does good like a medicine. But when you're not grateful, Solomon says, but a broken spirit drieth up the bones. When you're angry, well, what do I got to be happy about? Look what he's got. Look what happened to them. Look at this. And how come I got all these bad things? And you get an angry, bitter spirit. It dries up your bones. It's like when you go to God and you say, God, I want something. Why don't you bless me? I just wish you'd give me something. How much can he put in that hand? But when you say, Lord, I surrender to you. I thank you for everything you've given me, and I'm asking you to help me in the future. You can put a lot of things in an open hand. You can't put anything in this. So being thankful, because let's be honest, it says right here, Paul says we're going to be lovers of their own selves. Most of us, the human nature is we're selfish. What's in it for me? Well, you know what? Being thankful, there's a lot in it for you. Because it softens your spirit, it gives you a merry heart, and your body is at ease. God designed our physical bodies. He put us inside our body these two little organs called kidneys. And sitting on top of those kidneys, looks like little hats. They're called adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands, what they do is they secrete this hormone that just says, just calm down, everything's okay. But when the adrenal glands get all blown out of proportion, they get all tensed up, there's nothing to secrete. And instead of being at ease and everything's okay, what happens is you get more and more tied up in a knot. And you can actually get what's called an ulcer. When like the old saying, well, what's eating you? You can get so angry and so bitter that it starts to physically eat your stomach lining. So being merry, it does good like a medicine. It says, everything's okay. Yeah, I'm not happy about the situations in life right now, but it's going to be okay. I know God's going to help me. And that merry heart, it does good like a medicine. And you can't be ungrateful and merry at the same time. And you can't be merry and angry at the same time. You can't. So a merry heart does good like a medicine. And the best way to have a merry heart is, like the old saying, count your blessings. So when you think about it, this gratefulness is so important to us. God tells us that it's actually how we should approach Him in the first place. In Psalm 100, verse 4, it says, enter into His gates with what? Thanksgiving. And into His courts with praise. Be thankful unto Him and bless His name. Amen. Don't approach God like this. Approach God like this. In Psalm 92, verse 1, it's a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord, and to sing praises unto thy name, O Most High. It's a good thing. It's a wise thing. It's the best thing for you, and it's the best thing to open the channels of communication between you and your God by giving Him thanks. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever helped anybody in any way? And you're thinking, hey, I went out of my way to help that person, and they didn't say thank you. But instead they just said, well, what are you going to do for me next time? I want more money. I want more of this. And you look at them and say, well, gee, I'm not real jumping up and down excited to help you again. You didn't even say thank you for the last time. Well, how do you think God feels? How many times He blesses us, helps us, protects us, takes care of us, and we don't say thank you just because we don't have everything we want. Well, I don't want to shock you. Are you sitting down? You're never going to get everything you want in this life. It's not designed for that. We get everything we want in the next life, not in this one. And then he goes on to say in 1 Chronicles 16 and verse 34, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever." God is a good God. And it's a good thing to give him thanks, because his mercy endures forever. Even if God never did anything else for me other than open the doors of heaven so that when I leave planet Earth, I get to be forgiven and spend eternity with him, that's enough. So, what I want to share with you, and you may say, well, okay, all right, maybe I should start being thankful, but what do I got to be thankful for? I could give you all, you got all day, I could be here all day talking about things, but I'm just going to give you 8 things, 8, number of new beginnings. I'm going to give you 8 reasons why you and I should be thankful. The first one is because you were born. You exist. What it says of Jesus in John chapter 1 and verse 3, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. You were made. The reason that you're here and you're listening to me is because you exist. Do you remember what you were doing before you were born? No, you didn't exist. Just think if you would have never been made, you still wouldn't exist. So just the mere fact that God says, I want to create you, and he made you, guess what? That's an awesome thing. And not only were you just made, you were made by him.
Amen.
And that's kind of a good thing. That's something to be grateful for. We take it for granted. Well, yeah, you don't know what kind of family I was born into, and you don't know the situations I had to deal with. I know. I wasn't born in the Leave It to Beaver family, and that's TV, that's fantasy land. But you know what? I'm glad I exist. I was born in 1954 to a woman that was 21 years old. Now, I love my mama with all my heart, and she's in heaven right now, and I'm going to see her again someday. There's no way I could love my mom any more than I do, but I'm just telling you the facts. In 1953 is when I was conceived, and my mom was 21 years old and married to one man she was getting a divorce with, and had an affair with another man that she wanted to marry, but he skipped out on her, so she was stuck in the middle. And I love my mom with all my heart, but I know that if abortion was legal in 1953, I wouldn't be here, and I would not exist. Now, I would be a spirit in heaven, but I would have never spent 1 minute here on earth. But I'm here. And God had a purpose in that, and I'm not an accident. And you know what? Neither are you. I've told you before, from the time I was 5 to the time I was about 16, all I ever heard is you were an accident. You should have never been born. You don't deserve to breathe air. And I believed that as a young man growing up. Once I got saved, I realized God doesn't make mistakes. I'm not an accident, and neither are you. You're here at this time in history for a reason, and you exist. Just that in itself is something to be grateful for. Number 2, be grateful that you were born in the United States. Now, I know we can get into politics, and some people are angry at the United States. Some people say, we've done all these atrocities around the world, and we're a bunch of scoundrels, and did you ever hear the old saying, I love my country, but I fear my government? Out of all the countries on the planet Earth, I'm glad I live in the United States.
Amen.
God could have had me born in Northern Ireland, because I'm Irish. I could have been born in Northern Ireland in the midst of all those battles and fights going on. I could have been born in the Middle East and had people strap bombs on themselves and blow each other up. I could have been born anywhere. But I thank God I was born in the United States. I know there's people in this country that live in poverty, don't have much, and I'm not belittling that in any way, but there's more access to people to get help in this country than anyone else in this country that find themselves in that situation. I heard a story about a man, excuse me, who was homeless, living in New York City, and he lost everything. And it was cold in the wintertime. So what he would do is he would go into one of the public libraries in downtown New York just to stay warm. Well, after doing that for a couple of days, he thought, you know what, there's a lot of books in here. I think I'm going to start reading some. And he started reading books. And he got an incredible education. And he would then leave the library and go down the street to a soup kitchen and get something to eat. And then at night he'd find a shelter and he'd go there and sleep. But during the day, instead of standing outside in that freezing cold, he would just go back into the library and he would read. And after a while, he started to learn some things, and things started to click in his brain. And he started a little business. And he then built that business, and he never became rich and famous, but he became very successful, and he bought a house, and he got married, and he lived a very happy life, all because of the things that were given to him absolutely free. And believe it or not, libraries still exist. And all the wisdom of everyone who's ever lived before us is in those library books. And you can read them anytime you want. You know the old saying, I wish I knew back then what I know now? Well, guess what? These people that wrote these books, they lived a whole life, and they're passing on their wisdom to you, and you can learn from their mistakes. And you can learn from success leaves signposts. And you can follow and learn how one person came from rags to riches. And that's all free in this country. Now, is this country perfect? Absolutely not. And some of the things we see going on in the government just angers me. But still, this country as a whole, I'm glad I live in this country. I never once heard on the news millions of people are starting a caravan to line up to try to get into Czechoslovakia. Thousands of people are lined around the border of Hungary to try to get in. No, where is it the one country in the whole world where everybody wants to get into? The United States. And we were born there. I think everybody here are natural-born American citizens. We were born here. It's a gift. We take it for granted. But you know what? I'm glad I was born in this country. Is it perfect? No. But out of all the countries on the planet Earth, this is a pretty good one. It's the best it's going to get. Till Jesus comes back. All right, number 3. Third thing, and the other thing I want to mention about our country, and again, this is very controversial. There's a lot of different theories. But our country, like I mentioned with the Pilgrims, the majority of the people that came to this country were escaping persecution. And this country was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic. Now that's being challenged every day. I was talking to some people the other day about a meeting they went to from this man that used to be a Muslim and he's now a Christian. He talked about, the indoctrination of Islam into this country. But basically this country was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic. And other countries don't have that. So, number 2, be glad you're born in this country. Number 3, now I think I know everybody in this room well enough to say this. Be thankful that you were born again.
Amen.
John 3:3. Jesus answered and said unto Nicodemus, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. We were born again. Be grateful, because not everybody can say that. That means that at one time in history, Almighty God put His finger on you and drew you by His Holy Spirit to reveal Jesus and how much you needed him, and you accepted, and you did like what I did, what I call the great exchange. You gave Jesus your sin, and he gave you his righteousness.
Amen.
Be grateful for that. Because, like you've heard me say before, everybody was born once, and everybody will die once. It's appointed unto man once to die, then the judgment. I had no say-so in the fact that I was born April 24th, 1954. I have no say-so in that. And someday I'm going to die. Of course, I'm hoping for the rapture. That's what I'm waiting for. I just think that would be cool, wouldn't it? Just all of a sudden I'm here, and all of a sudden I'm up in the air with the Lord. But either way, somehow I'm getting out of here. But if I die an old man, I don't know when that day is, but it's already been prescribed. Before God said, let there be light, he knew when he was going to put David Michael on the planet Earth, and he knew when he was going to take David Michael off the planet Earth. But that's the first birth and the first death. There's a second birth and there's a second death. I had no say-so in when I was going to be born, when I'm going to die. But when and if I'm going to be born again, and be born a second time, or I'm going to die a second time, is totally up to me. And like I just said, what Jesus told to Nicodemus, you got to be born again to even see the kingdom of God. And I chose, I don't remember the exact date, but it was September of 1976 that I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I was born again. But someday, if you haven't been born again spiritually, then you will face a second death spiritually. And those of us that are studying Revelation on Wednesdays, we hear the scriptures about the second death, and it's nothing that you want to have happen to you. The torment, the smoke of their torment goes up day and night forever and ever and ever. I don't want to face a second death. And that's up to me if I have to or not. I can be born again. Anyone can be born again. So be grateful that you're born again. You're never going to face the second death. You've had that first birth, you will have that first death, and you've had that second birth, so that means you never have to face the second death. In other words, eternity is yours. Which brings me to number 4, something else to be grateful for, that you're part of a family. Now, some of us have had great families, some of us have had horrendous families, some of us don't even know who all our families are, and some of us have had mediocre. Some of us have had great families, and we have nothing but good memories, and I'm happy for that. But you know what? Because you've been born again, you're part of another family now that's going to last forever. In Romans chapter 8 and verse 17, Paul says this, "And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together." When you were born again and you asked Jesus, here's my sins, please forgive me, and he gives us his righteousness, one of the things the Holy Spirit does is he adopts us into God's family, and we have a family. Sometimes people go through life and they're alone and they feel lonely, but if you're born again, I'm telling you, there's a family waiting for you in eternity where no one is ever going to feel lonely again. You're going to be totally understood, totally accepted, and that's something to be grateful for, because throughout all eternity, I've got a family. You know, we play this game here from time to time. It's called Family Feud. Do you know that was still one of the #1 rated TV shows in America? And it's on every night around dinner time. They do that on purpose. You know why? Because so many people in this country, of course, mostly with social media and everything, people don't know how to converse face to face. You're just texting everybody, or you're typing an email, or, everybody's in social media, but to sit down and look at somebody eyeball to eyeball, nobody knows how to have a conversation. And so many people live alone and they're lonely. But what they do is when they're eating their ravioli and macaroni and cheese or whatever you're eating for dinner, and you're sitting there watching TV, and you see these families on there that are happy, and they all love each other, and they're jumping up and down, and they get to win money, and Steve Harvey makes them all laugh. It's the #1 show because people, it used to be like the Waltons. Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, John Boy. And everybody wanted a happy Walton Thanksgiving. Well, that show's not in anymore. But people crave that. Because God said it's not good that man should be alone. And God made us, like I've said before, God could have made people grow on trees. He could have done that. But He made people grow out of a relationship of one man and one woman called your mom and dad. And that starts a family. And then if you have more, you have siblings, and that's a family. God instituted that because it's a good thing. And if you're born again, you're part of an eternal family, and that's something to be grateful for. You may not be able to share in it right now, but I'm promising you it's waiting for you. Which leads me to number 5. And it may sound like I'm repeating myself, but be grateful because you're part of a family. And you say, yeah, but you just said that. Yeah, that's your spiritual family. But you know what? Down here on earth right now, those of you that I'm talking to, you're part of a family. In Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 25 it says this, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. You have an earthly family here called the church. You're part of a family. You know, I say all the time, we're not a big mega church, but we're a family, and I mean that. You're important. You may think, if I don't go to church today, it's not going to matter. Well, I miss you. I'm up here every Sunday, and I'm playing guitar, and I'm singing, and I'm trying to focus on Jesus, but I try not to look around when I'm doing praise and worship, but I'll look around and say, oh, so-and-so's not here yet. Oh, they're not here. And I remember conversations I had in the past week, and I hope everything's okay. And I'm thinking about you. I know when you're here, and I know when you're not. And other people miss you too. And you're important. When you look around and say, where is everybody? Well, that's what they're saying when you're not here. You're important. You're part of the family. And you don't have to go through life alone, because it's not good that man should be alone. And unfortunately, this family, are you ready? This family here is made up of a bunch of sinners. And you know who probably the worst sinner in the whole house is? Your pastor. And you know what? I'm imperfect. Always have been. I won't always will be. Because when I'm with Jesus, everything's going to be great. But in this life, always have been and always will be. And I may say something that's going to offend you. If you hang around with me long enough, I'll say something that's going to tick you off or upset you. But you know what? I guarantee you, I promise you, to the depths of my soul and to the end of my toenails, I will never say or do anything purposely to hurt anybody. Because that's not what I want. But because I'm a human being, I will offend somebody. And you know what? You may offend somebody, and someone may offend you. And it's so easy now to just say, well, that's it. I'm done with this church. I'm going down to this church here because that pastor's, he's perfect and he smiles nicer and he's, you know, and all the people are so much more friendly. Just hang around and wait. Like the old saying, if you find a perfect church, you better leave it because you'll make it imperfect. But you got a family, you got a place, you got something you're part of. And enjoy that. Be grateful for it. You don't have to go through life alone. When you're hurting and you have questions or you're in need, call me. Call somebody else in the church. We're here to lift each other up and to pray for one another so that we don't have to go in our journey from the womb to the tomb alone until we get to that eternal, perfect family where Jesus is the head shepherd, and I guarantee you he is perfect. And when Jesus says something, he says, blessed are you if you're not offended in me. He doesn't apologize for what he says. I may have to apologize for what I say every day because I ain't perfect. And I'm not Jesus. But that shepherd is perfect. And In the meantime, be grateful. You have a group of people. I don't know about you, but when I see things going on in the world and going on in the news, I can't wait to get together with my friends here and talk about it. Say, well, did you hear about that? What do you think about that? And just to see your face and to know, yeah, everything's okay. That song that we sing, "It Is Well With My Soul," when you come on Sunday morning and you're sitting in that chair and I look at you, I don't know everything going in your life, but I look and say, well, things are well enough with their soul that they made it here. And they're clothed and they seem to be in their right mind. So, praise God. So, be grateful that you have a family here on earth as well. And I pray you have a good earthly family with a mom and dad and brothers and sisters, but not all of us have that luxury. All right, I'm moving along, I promise. Number 6, and it may sound kind of silly, but be grateful that you're still alive. Did you ever hear the old saying, every day above ground is a good day? A couple of years, well, I don't know, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, I went to my 40th high school reunion. And it was amazing how many people I was looking for. And I said, hey, well, where's so-and-so? Or where's he? Where's she? And they said, they're gone. They're not alive anymore. And I'm at that age where I've got a lot of people that I used to know that aren't here anymore. But I made it 65 years. If you would have told me when I was 18 that I was going to live to be 65, I would have said, you're crazy. I didn't even think, to me, 30 was old. 25 was middle age. And I thought, 30, man, you don't trust anyone over 30. I'm not going to live to be that old. And now I'm 65, but I'm still alive. Like somebody asked George Burns, how'd you get to live so long? He says, just keep breathing. Every day above ground is a good day. Are you still alive? Well, then be grateful. This is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. And yeah, but it hurts when I go like this. And it hurts when I go like this. And everything else hurts. But you know what? You're still alive. It beats the alternative, doesn't it? So, be grateful that you're alive. And remember this. In 3 John 1, verse 2, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter your situation in life. God's wishes for each one of us is still the same. To be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So are you still alive? Then He's not done with you. Death is God's way of telling you it's time to slow down. If you're not dead, He's not done with you. You never know what could happen next. I'll just tell you this goofy story, but last night I was flipping through the channels before I went to bed just to see what's going on in the world, and this movie Outcast was on. I think that's what or Castaway, where Tom Hanks was, on this banished to this island, and he was living all by himself, and he was so depressed, and he was going to hang himself because he just couldn't stand it being alone any longer. And he went to sleep very, very depressed, and he woke up the next day and he heard this funny noise. And he goes out to the beach, and out in the middle of nowhere, out in the ocean, half of an outhouse got washed up onto shore. And he comes up with this idea. He gets this outhouse and he builds all these wooden, like a raft, and he puts it on top of it. And that's what he used to get off the island until the ship found him. And I'm thinking he was going to kill himself, but the next day, an outhouse came and saved his life. So you know what? You may feel like you're down in the dumps and there's no hope, but God may have an outhouse coming around the corner. So you never know what's going to happen. Don't give up. I'll be honest with you, okay? There's been times in my life I've thought about ending it. And, but now that I'm a Christian, I'm not going to give the devil the benefit. The devil wants me out of here. I'm not going to lay down and die for him. And besides, you know what? I'm kind of interested. I want to see how this story ends. How in the world is God going to get me through the whole rest of my life until I die or I get raptured? I'm not going to give that up. So the fact that you're still alive, be glad. God's not done with you. He can use you in incredible ways. And just think, if just one person was thinking of taking their life, or just giving up, or just thinking there's no hope, and you could be the one to just tell them, hey, there is hope. There is a God. Just one person. Isn't it worth it? So be grateful that you're still alive, because it sure beats the alternative. Number 7, I'm almost there. Be grateful that He is going to take care of you for the rest of your life. In Psalm 37, verse 25, David said this, I have been young and now am old, which means I've been around the block and I've seen a few things. And he says, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread.
Amen.
He's going to take care of you.
That's right.
Is He not our Heavenly Father? When the disciples came to Jesus and they said, Lord, teach us how to pray. He said, well, pray like this. O heavenliest Fatherest, I comest to theest, and I beg you to just let me live and just eke out an existence. No. Give me this day my daily bread. Meet all my needs. When I pray that almost every day, the Lord's Prayer. And when I pray that, give us our need, or our bread, our daily bread, all the needs. That's just not something to eat. That's everything I need. Keep my electricity turned on. Keep my car running. Keep my job still there. And He's going to take care of us. Why would Jesus ask us to pray that, and then if God's not going to do it?
That's right.
Did He or did He not say, I'm going to meet all your needs according to His riches and glory?
Amen.
And I could go on and on with all the scriptures, but just be grateful that, you hear all these forecasts about, next year, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or we might lose our jobs, or the stock market, or this. They've been saying that since the beginning of time. I love to talk to older people in nursing homes, because I always ask them about their life. And you know what? People are interesting when you talk to them and you ask them about their life. I've never met a boring person yet. Everybody's got something interesting about their life. And I love when they tell me stories about, back in 1906, we ate bark. We had nothing to, we were living in a chicken coop, and but you know what? They made it through, and they're still alive.
Amen.
But that's what makes life interesting. Just think if the day you were born, somebody came in and said, oh, hi, here's a contract, just sign this, and everything will be smooth and easy and no problems. And you signed it, and then you were ushered out of the delivery room and put on a pillow, and then you're just suspended on a cloud and you ate marshmallows for 60 years, and then wouldn't that be a boring life?
Yeah.
Instead, you're ripped out of your mama's womb, they hang you upside down, they smack you on the butt and say, welcome to the planet Earth. And it doesn't get much better after that. Job said that surely as sparks fly upward, man's born to trouble.
That's right.
But you know what? I'm still here. I've been through things that would even curl my hair. But I'm still here. I'm still alive.
Amen.
And you know what? God's taken care of me for 65 years. What makes me think He won't take care of me for another 65? I kind of doubt it, but another 65 if He has to. So be grateful that you're still alive, and be grateful He's going to take care of you. Doesn't mean there's not going to be any bumps in the road, but you know what? When you talk about your life, don't you talk about the difficulties that you came over or overcame? Those are the things that make life interesting.
That's right.
So be grateful. He's going to take care of you. And then number 8, be grateful because you're free.
Amen.
John 8:36. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed.
Amen.
Amen.
And you said, free? Free about what? How about free from sin? Do you know that you don't have to sin? Now, we will because we're sinners, and that's human nature, but we don't have to. The chains of bondage have been broken. I hear people all the time say, oh, well, I can't quit because I'm addicted. And you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were addicted. You have to keep doing it then. No. The chains of bondage have been broken. You don't have to be addicted to anything. You got to be brave enough to believe that I can actually live a different life. I can change anything about my life. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but I'm free from sin. I don't have to sin. And I fight it every day. The other thing we're free from is, guess what? Fear. I don't know about you, but before I was a Christian, of course, all the drugs I did didn't help any. I was the most paranoid person you ever met. I was afraid of my own shadow. I was afraid of everything happening. But now that I'm saved, I don't have to fear anything. Did you ever hear or read the old bumper sticker that says that if you fear man, you'll fear everything. But if you fear God, you'll fear nothing.
Amen.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We're all given this thing called fear, which basically means reverence and respect. Because if I'm afraid that the guy, when I'm in the third grade, that the sixth grader out for recess is bigger than me and he's going to beat me up, I take my fear and respect and I give it to him and I say, please don't hurt me, and I'm afraid of him. But if I take my fear and I give it to God and say, I respect you, I believe he can take care of anyone, even that big sixth grader out for recess that can beat me up. If you fear God, you'll fear nothing. And we're free from fear. We're free from condemnation. We don't have to walk around feeling guilty and condemned. Some people walk around with a guilty conscience. Some people walk around with so much condemnation on them, they can't even lift their head off their pillow. But there is therefore now no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. If you walk after the flesh, that means you're living according to everything you've done and everything that could happen to you in the physical world, and you're going to have nothing but condemnation. But if you're walking after the Spirit, and you say, guess what? My sins have been forgiven me. When I asked Jesus to forgive me, all those things I did in the past, they're dropped in the sea of forgetfulness. He remembers them no more. I'm walking in the Spirit. Yeah, but what about this? What about that? I don't fear that because I know my God's going to take care of me. So I don't have to worry about that. I'm now free from that condemnation. The other thing we're free from is criticism. You know, when I was a young man, especially in high school, I did some of the dumbest things that affected my whole life, that who I am today. You know why? Because of peer pressure. Because I wanted to look cool. Because not being cool was like the worst thing. And I wanted to be cool. So I would smoke more than anyone else, drink more than anyone else. I had to do the most. I would just do anything because I had to be cool. And now I spent all this time, I quit school in the 10th grade. I went to school for 2 weeks in the 10th grade. And I quit when I was 15 years old. Because I was so cool and I was skipping school and doing all kinds of things I shouldn't have done. And that's affected my whole life. And I did that to impress people that I don't even remember their names anymore. But you know what? Some people carry that over in life.
That's right.
I got to make sure that my brother and sister think I'm more successful than they are. I want my dad to think I made it as a success. Or, you know, that's why there's all these magazines, oh, girls, you're not pretty enough unless you look like her. Guys, you're not macho enough unless you look like him. All these things, this peer pressure to make us say we're not good enough and make stupid decisions. Well, you know what? I'm not conformed to this world. I'm not conformed to the image of this world. I'm being conformed into the image of Christ. I'm free from all that criticism. Now, I'll be honest with you. I want people to like me. Don't you want people to like you? I want when I leave the room, people say, hey, that Dave, he's a pretty good guy. But I know that that's not always going to happen, because not everybody we meet in life is going to like us. I used to, that would just give me a nervous breakdown if I thought somebody didn't like me. But now, you know what I do? When somebody's mad at me or they don't like me, what I do is I say, Lord, what can I learn from this? Did I really say or do something wrong that I should have done different? But you know what? I got a quote to you, I'm sorry, from Rocky 3. I'm sorry. But Paulie is talking to Apollo Creed, and he's giving him a hard time, and Paulie looks at him and says, I don't sweat you. You know what? When somebody doesn't like me, I don't sweat them. I love them. But I'm not going to let their criticism and their thought of me stop me from doing what I know Jesus wants me to do. Like the old saying, you can't drive forward while you're always looking in the rearview mirror. And I'm not perfect, never have been, never will be. And I've said and done some things that I wish I could do different, but I'm free from that criticism. And I know there's some people in this world that like me, and I know there's some people in this world that don't, but I'm free from it. My goal, like Paul said, I press forward towards the mark of the high calling of Christ Jesus. There's only one person I'm trying to impress, and his name is Jesus. Because I want everything in my life, when I see him eyeball to eyeball, I don't want him to say, oh yeah, I forgot you were getting in here. No, I want him to say, Davy, my faithful servant, well done. Come on and enter into your rest. Come on, let's go. I want to introduce you to my Father. That's what I'm looking for. He's the only one I want to impress. Now, in the meantime, we're all going to make enemies. We're all, you got to be careful we don't do it on purpose. But because when we do make an enemy or someone's mad at us, consider it, Lord, what did I say? Did I do something wrong? And try to make reconciliation. Most of the time people don't want reconciliation. So, hey, I've done all I can do. I forgive and I'm moving forward, but we're free from criticism. And then finally, you know the other thing we're free from? Death.
Amen.
That's most people, that's their number 2 fear. Like in my commercial that I did, I talked about most Americans, their number 2 fear in life is death. Their number 1 fear in life is public speaking. So that means if you go to a funeral, you'd rather be the guy in the casket than the one doing the eulogy. I don't get it, but I don't have to be afraid of death. Because yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for my Jesus is with me. I don't even have to worry about death. I'm free from that. Whom the Son has made free is free indeed. So, I'm going to close in this. We can be grateful that we were born. We can be grateful that we were born in this country. We can be grateful because we were born again. We can be grateful because we have a spiritual family that's waiting for us for eternity. We can be grateful because we have an earthly family that we can do this travel through life with. We can be grateful because we're still alive. God's not done with us. We can be grateful because He's going to take care of us every step of the way, and we can be grateful because we're free. In Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6, Paul says this, be careful for nothing. And that word careful in the Greek means anxious and worried. So in other words, don't worry, be happy. God's telling you, how much are we supposed to be anxious and worried about? Nothing. Yeah, but you don't know about this. Nothing. Be anxious and worried about nothing. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with what? Thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. When you have a need, when you have a desire, don't come up to God and say, God, why don't you bless me? You bless everyone else. I'm so mad. How much can he put in this hand? But with prayer and supplication, say, Lord, I thank you for being such a good God and all the things you've given me. Father, I really need this. Could you help me? Could you bless me? I got an open hand. You can put as much as you want in that open hand. So, this Thursday, I hope you're with other people. If you're not, find another person who has no one else to spend Thanksgiving with. And then you know what you'll do? You'll destroy that loneliness in two people. But I hope you're with somebody, and as you're eating your turkey or whatever you're eating, be grateful.
Amen.
Because we serve a good God. He's a
Amen.
good God, and He's got good things for us in the future.
Amen.
Amen.